What's up everybody and welcome back to my channel. As you can see, my background is noticeably different, and that's because I am right now staying in Canada at my parents' house as we wait for the coronavirus to pass. They were very adamant about me coming here. I was actually supposed to come back to Canada temporarily early April in order to close out a business deal that I had. But obviously with the borders closing, they closed on Tuesday. It was very important for me to get here before that happened. And so that's why I pushed everything up to get here. And unfortunately, now I'm stuck until everything opens back up and then I can return back to Paris, France. I will cover a lot more about the business opportunity that I have, what it was like flying here in the midst of borders shutting down and rules changing. I had to book like 3 different flights just to get in as borders were closing and everything over on my channel membership section. But for now, let's get into a recap of what went down on Teen Mom OG Season 9, Episode 1. Right off the bat, you can see that MTV is doing their very best to make violent ass Amber the victim in all of this machete gate scandal. Like, they start off with an Instagram live of her apologizing to her fans for letting them down. She's pretending to cry, but as usual, there are no tears falling from her eyes. Then we flip on over to a scene of Amber sitting on her couch, of course, as usual, when Gary comes over, her first baby daddy, who, by the way, she very viciously assaulted over like a whole entire season and a half of the early days of Teen Mom OG. Just so you know that this is not a one-off incident with Amber Portwood. About everything that went on with Andrew, and she essentially implies that he was building her up to that point. She's like, there's only so much that someone like me with mental illness can take. And again, we get the mental illness card here, as if everybody with borderline personality disorder is a menace to society, dangerous, should not be in a relationship, should not have children. Like, no, Amber, that has minimal. I'm not going to say nothing, because of course some of it does have to do with the illness that she has, but a lot of it is just the fact that Amber is a violent thug, like a dangerous woman who has no business dating people or having children, point blank period. She was trying her hardest to get the tears to flow this entire season, but they were just not moving for her. And so in a last ditch attempt, she covers her nose and her mouth and holds her breath to try and force, like, you know, tears through asphyxiation. But of course, that was not really happening. All she did was manage to muster up one little struggle tear for us by the very end of the scene. And then she claims that she feels very guilty and ashamed of her actions. But we've heard that before, and we've seen her reoffend continuously. So nothing's going to change with this woman, unfortunately. MTV is not yet done at this point laying the groundwork for people to believe that Amber was somehow the victim in all of this, as she chased her boyfriend and their child around the house with a machete. Next, they pan into her co-stars and show off their reactions to the news about Amber being arrested. First, we get Catelynn and Tyler on the porch. Catelyn's like, that's my friend, I want to be there for her. She doesn't show any bit of concern for Andrew and the baby. And then Tyler says that the last thing that Amber needs is another domestic violence incident on her record. Whereas I believe that the last thing that the world needs is violent Amber getting off yet again and not having to serve any time or have any real repercussions for her actions. Further down south in Tennessee, Maci explains Amber's violent streak away by claiming that it all has to do with her mental health issues, which again, I feel like is a very extreme disservice to people who actually have mental health disorders and do their very best to manage them and to continue living life as law-abiding, non-violent citizens. I don't think that we can 100% blame what Amber has been doing throughout her entire adult life on the fact that she's got borderline personality disorder or that she's depressed or whatever else she has been diagnosed with. We really have to get to the root of the person here and finally admit that, you know, she's a rotten person. Like, that's it. That's all. On the West Coast in LA, Corey made it seem as though Andrew was trying his best to keep James away from Amber. And I felt that it was very unfair because the courts thought that it was in the best interest of James to be with the parent who did not chase him with a machete. And I don't understand why that is Andrew's fault, or how Corey, as a parent himself, would not side with that ruling. I'm pretty sure that if anyone chased his daughter with a freaking machete, he would not want them to be around her. Next up, we get another super contrived scene of Amber sniffling away some invisible snot. She's like, but there's nothing coming from her nose, nothing coming from her eyes. It's all just so embarrassing to watch her try and convince people. She picks up where Corey left off about how Andrew was like keeping her from seeing her baby James. But meanwhile, in the audio tapes that leaked, we heard her many a times say she didn't want that child pick up that effing child because I don't want to pick him up. I'm gonna tell him when he's older that I didn't want him, you forced me to have him, I didn't want any kids until I was 30. Like all these things that pointed to the fact that I'm pretty sure she is quite content with not having to do any kind of child rearing for the time being. And if you actually followed the stories as well, she kind of missed a couple of her days to even see this boy. So it's all just an act. Do not fall for a single word of it. You guys, Mac's story is gonna bother me throughout this season because, you know, I just recently went through the same thing. I made a video about it for my channel members, but just the pangs. I'm getting the pangs of watching her season play out. And like, it was already bad enough watching her suffer so much last season, but now like relating to it too closely is just way too much. In her debut scene of the season, we watch as she calls her sister to ask for advice about Josh's cheating being leaked in the news, and her sister says that she needs to confront him rather than just leave him based on speculation, which I did think was very sound advice on one hand, but on the other hand, someone capable of like two-timing you can lie in circles, you know, to the point where you don't even know up from down anymore. Immediately after Mackenzie's super quick scene, we get Ryan and the other Mackenzie looking like they haven't showered in weeks as they sit on a patio and talk about inviting Bentley to Jaggers' birthday party a couple of days ahead of it. Guys, why do they always try to invite Bentley and Maci to things at the very last minute? Like, it's so ridiculous. They act like she's got nothing else to do. Meanwhile, she's got a very active social life between her friends and her family. So it's like they never learn, or they just enjoy setting her up to quote unquote fail so that they can look like the victims. Back to Catelynn again. She says that hearing Amber's drama with Andrew really makes her appreciate Tyler and their machete-free marriage. So she plans a surprise vacation for them to Maui to celebrate their 4-year wedding anniversary. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Matt moves to Los Angeles to be closer to Cheyenne, but he will be living with a roommate. Guys, I love Cheyenne's bob. It suits her so freaking well. Now, Matt pulls up to Cheyenne's house with a bunch of suitcases and lets her know in that instant that things fell through with his roommate, so he's not sure where he's going to be living. And then he asks her how she feels about moving in with him. And I was like, oh, brokenness really does change a man's attitude, because if I recall correctly, last season it was Cheyenne pushing him for more commitment, like moving in together, getting engaged, getting married, having more babies, and he was pushing it all off. He's like, I want to come up and live with a roommate, I want to have my space, settle myself first, blah, blah, blah. But now that his SoundCloud music career has flopped, he has come running to her asking to move in together. I did not appreciate the fact that he just pulled up like that, you know, knowing that she lives with her daughter and her sister's son. Like, there are 2 children who live here, 2 separate women who live here. So for you to just pull up with your little struggle suitcase and demand to live with me all of a sudden after turning it down last year, no. Hell freaking no. Down in Tennessee again, Ryan and his family sit by their garage and complain that Maci couldn't send a Bentley to Jaggers' birthday so last minute. Guys, I'm glad his dad told him to stop being so negative, but of course, Ryan was not hearing it. Leah's first day of 5th grade is coming up, and Amber's not sure if she should make her annual I Swear I'm a Good Mom performance now that her abusive ways are being heavily advertised. We finally get a tear and a half when Amber cries about the fact that, you know, whenever she is around Leah, she thinks about James. Mind you, this girl is around Leah like 3 times a year, remember? And it's been that way for many freaking years. So, you know, she's not thinking about James too damn often, clearly. Back down south, Mackenzie confronts Josh and he admits to being inappropriate with a woman at the bar that we heard about last season. Then, guys, I'm telling you, I am shook just watching these scenes because these people all operate the same way. Like, listen, this douchebag says that we both need to work on finding ourselves again, and that he hates that we are going through this. Like, it's not 1000% his fault. We're not going through coronavirus together, dude. Like, we are going through the fact that your trifling ass took the truck that I paid for with my money and bought a drink at the bar with my money and did something with someone else. Like, we're not going through something together that like could not have been prevented. Like, Anyway, and he also says that he's sorry for whatever he did. Again, takes literally no responsibility. I want Mackenzie to leave this guy in the dust where he belongs, because this was just a mess of a conversation to watch. And it's just par for the course with these like mentally like effed up dudes. Meanwhile in Maui, Catelynn, her bangs, and Tyler sit down to rehash the tough year that they just went through. They were both hurt by each other the previous year. Remember, Tyler was disappointed in Kate returning to rehab again without really giving outpatient treatment a try. And then Catelynn was hurt by Tyler asking for a separation after she announced that she was pregnant. It was a little bit awkward. Like, I don't see any chemistry between these two. Like, they talk about overcoming and still being in love and stuff, but to me, I just felt like a lot of tension and awkwardness and no attraction whatsoever. Anyway, Kate lets Tyler know that she's got another surprise planned for them tomorrow, and he just looked like he was dreading it, if you ask me. Back in Los Angeles, Cheyenne, Matt, his roomie, and their parents look for places for him, and he asks her at the very end of the tour again whether or not she wants to move in with him, and she says that she's not ready to uproot Ryder or put that financial strain on her sister because they're sharing the rent or mortgage or whatever it is on their home. Guys, I really do not trust this guy just based off remembering how standoffish he was towards the idea of moving in with Ryder last season, only to now be all gung-ho now that he doesn't have the money to like live with this roommate or something like that. Like, it's very shady. After dropping Leah off for like a motherhood performance of sorts, Amber sits down on her couch with her producer to talk about the guilt that she feels for, you know, embarrassing Leah with her actions. But it's like, sis, you are like a fourth cousin twice removed. Like, no one is really thinking about you when it comes to Leah. Her teachers know you're trash, her janitor knows you're trash, the lunch lady knows you're trash. They know that Christina is her real mother. So like, at this point, you're just embarrassing yourself for the most part. By the end of the scene, Amber's acting coach has finally earned his keep because my girl managed to squeeze out count 'em, 2 tears in this freaking scene. So that brings us to a total of 3.5 this whole entire episode, despite her trying her freaking hardest. Like, we're getting there. I think next episode we might get like 5 or 6. So just hang tight, guys. Hang tight. I think they're coming. Back in Mackenzie land, she goes to her mother's house for advice about Josh's philandering ways. Mind you, her mother has since passed away. So I'm sure these scenes are doubly hard for Mackenzie to watch back. Like, first of all, dealing with a trifling ass husband, and second of all, seeing the terrible advice that her mother gave her, and also seeing her mother who passed away on screen, right? She tells her mom that she's been crying to herself to sleep because of the humiliation and betrayal, and that she wants a divorce. But her mom does not even like allow her to have her feelings. She's like, whoa, the divorce word, the D word, should not even be in your vocabulary. Wait, what? Mackenzie and I both like had our jaws dropping on the floor. Like, really? Like, you won't even hear this woman out after she's telling you how depressed she is over her trifling ass husband? Like, you're just telling her not to go to divorce? And then both of her jaws collectively drop even further when her mom asked her what she could have done differently to prevent this situation. I am telling you, this woman was the ultimate pick me. She is giving extremely detrimental advice to her daughter, and it's sad to watch. Like, this is going to seem really insensitive. I don't know how to word it a little bit softer, but I'm hoping that now that she can't receive this sort of toxic advice from her mom, Mackenzie is able to make wiser choices moving forward in regards to her marriage with Josh, because in my opinion, it's not worth keeping. Mackenzie even said that she feels like her life would have been so much better if she had left Josh while Gannon was still a little baby. She would have had a much happier life with someone else. And like, guys, Mackenzie has like very extreme diabetes, and she still works, carries the household load. She's got like her hand in so many different pots to make money. She's got all these like online endeavors and stuff. She is hustling her ass off. Meanwhile, Josh can like hardly even keep his eyes open or form a sentence. He is rolling around in the car that she bought, you know, buying drinks with her freaking money. Like, no, leave this guy and move on. I'm really truly rooting for Mackenzie to to pick up and keep it moving, because nothing in the world is worth this level of emotional turmoil and betrayal and humiliation. It's sickening. With the icing on the cake being the fact that Josh never even accepted responsibility for what he did. He acted like just something out of the blue happened. I can't believe we're going through this, Mackenzie. What happened? I want to find myself. I'll do it with or without you. I'm sorry for whatever it is I did. Like, he is pure trash girl. Meanwhile in Maui, Catelynn blindfolds Tyler and leads him to a vow renewal ceremony, and he just did not look impressed whatsoever. I'm getting a very apprehensive, exhausted kind of vibe from Tyler, where he's trying his best to keep things moving, but I just don't see happiness from him, unfortunately. I think he's tired. He might have hit empty on his tank, and quite frankly, I don't blame him. Like, you know, the stuff that he's had to go through in his marriage to Kate, it's not for the faint of heart. Like, it must have been quite difficult for him. So I wouldn't blame him if that's the phase that he is in right now. Like, that doesn't mean that I think they're gonna divorce tomorrow or whatever, but you know, peaks and valleys. And I think right now they are at this valley that Catelynn is trying to bring to a peak out of guilt. And unfortunately, it's taking Tyler a little bit more time to get there than it has taken her. And hopefully things improve for the both of them. But just this season, this premiere episode, I see a really, really huge mismatch between the two of them. Anyway, you guys, that is your recap for the first episode of Teen Mom OG Season 9. As usual, I'm more excited to hear what you have to say about everything, so please make sure to leave all of your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and we'll chat. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.